You're listening to the Esoterics Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Fioraliz.
And this is Joe. Welcome back to the Esoterics Podcast.
How you doing today, Joe?
Hi. I'm really good. How about you?
Good. So, this is our first time ever recording at night, so we'll see how this goes.
Oh, yeah. We've never recorded at night?
No.
It's always been during the day.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow. I never would have thought of that, but yeah. Yes, well, now that this is sort of the new calendar going forward, so
Yeah. So we'll see how this goes.
yeah. Listen, can I how are you doing? What's going on with you? Like how is February treating you?
Pretty good so far. It's been actually pretty amazing so far. Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
great.
Yay. Why? Can you share? Is anything that you want to share?
It just feels like things are just falling into place really, really well. Like, especially just getting out of that Mercury retrograde. It's just like after once we're done, we were out of that. And I know there's like the shadow period or whatever, but it just felt like for me, like as soon as that just was done, it was like, all right, let's go.
Oh
And
my god.
yeah, it's been good. And then I have grandfather ceremony this coming weekend.
Yeah.
So I'm prepping for that, and I'm really looking forward to that, as I am only doing 2 more medicine ceremonies this year. I'm only signed up for 2 more, and that's it.
Mhm.
So I'm just really looking forward to, because grandfather ceremony is a day ceremony, so we get to sit and and talk, and it's very social. So yeah, I'm looking forward to spending some time with some friends, and yeah, it'll be great.
That's exciting. Well, and the reason I ask is because I am so glad January is the fuck over. I am so glad. Big emotions. Everybody had them.
Yeah.
Everybody was experiencing big emotions in January. And honestly, they are so exhausting. Big emotions are exhausting to me. And I feel like I got dry humped in January. Just, just wanted to tell January, stop fucking with me, you icy whore. Like, leave me alone. Okay. But it was sort of like, how after you eat and you're full, you don't like being jostled.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's what it felt like. January just kept jostling me, but it's such a different energy. This new moon energy in Aquarius and Venus, this energy is so much lovelier.
Yeah.
Like it really is. And just what you were talking about, it's forward movement, it's grace, it just feels loving and
Mm-hmm.
good and exciting. And January was not that.
No. No, it wasn't. It really wasn't. And so, like, I'll share something that you and I talked about before. Like, and think a lot of us, it's just kind of a natural thing that happens because we kind of overspend in December, and holidays, blah blah blah, and then we get January and we're just like, oh shit. But like, I had like in January, oh shit moment, and and where I may have just freaked out in years past and lived in that energy of like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I thankfully now, because of like everything that I've learned and everything that I'm still learning and that I'm practicing, I took that moment to say, okay, like, what is this trying to teach me?
Right.
What do I need to take a look at? And I did that. I'm like, okay, because I have to get my shit together, and I've got to, like, you know what first thing I did was like look at my accounts payable and look at all the stuff that was excess that I shouldn't, like,
Right.
there was things that I needed to cancel that I should have canceled a long time ago, and I hadn't done it.
Right.
So things
Right.
like that, just take a look at, like, what did this hardship have to teach me?
Right.
um and yeah, and it sucked, but
Yeah.
coming off the other side of it is great.
It really is. And it it feels almost childlike to me. Like, the excitement is back. Like it's exciting and magical. And now I feel like it's safe to sort of just let go of the reins and just see where it takes us. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Just let go of the reins for once.
Mhm.
Everything, the foundations are being built. Yeah. So, um, that sort of, let's talk a little bit about the energy. So,
Okay.
we are all transforming in some way or another in this energy, especially in the ways we see the people and situation around us, right? Okay, so people are seeing things with new eyes,
Mhm.
even if those eyes don't happen to agree with you. And that's sort of the difference of what's going on. It's necessary because the people who need to see in order to bring about the change, they're now truly seeing. And those who don't, those who have chosen to remain sort of blind,
Mhm.
but it's like they do this for a purpose, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
The people that stay blind, that's ultimately good for the greater whole.
Sure.
Okay, but like guys, I call this third dimensional bullshit. It really is, because it might be true, but it feels like hot, steamy bullshit. So for some major pivots or shifts, are just now underway in some form of like forward movement.
Yeah.
So, um, you know, um, yeah, I mean that's basically what I wanted to talk about, was just this energy that it just feels so different, and it's
Mhm.
forward movement. Some people are going to go with it, and some people are going to be like, nope, nothing needs to change.
Yeah, and we've talked about this just a few episodes ago when we were talking about, comfort and discomfort and how sometimes just change can feel very uncomfortable. But
Yeah,
when you allow yourself to just kind of like let go of the fear of change, and it feels a lot better. And it's
it
hard
really
when you're in
does.
it. It's really hard when you're in it. But once you get on the other side here, it's very it's just a big feeling of relief.
It is. It's a big feeling of relief. Yay.
All right. We have any announcements?
Well, yes. I have a big one. I want to make sure everyone knows about the esoteric community's 4-week intuitive development work group. That was launched last week, and there's still space available.
Hmm.
And it's a 4-week work group that we're going to approach intuitive development sort of in a new way, using Akashic energy. I'm going to teach people how to tap into it. It's sort of like one of those things where it's such good energy, and it's so easy to develop. You just have to. It just takes a minute to learn how to connect to it. Like, wasn't
Hmm.
that was that your experience?
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So, instead of just teaching people, intuitive development, just teach them to learn how to tap into that Akashic energy, because that's going to be a little bit more powerful than, developing your clairvoyance and your clairsentience, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
It starts next Sunday, the 13th, and it continues through April 6th. I'm also offering 2 time slots each day so that you have options.
Mm.
So you can, class starts at 12 noon and then again at 3 p.m. And those are both PST times. So it would be 3 p.m. EST and 6 p.m. EST. So hopefully either of those times work for people.
Hmm.
We're going to talk about some really cool things. We're going to talk about mastering your empathic abilities, connecting to your higher self, opening your record. We're going to use tarot and oracle, to connect with your spirit guides and when working in your Akashic record. And then we're also going to talk about trusting yourself in the information and the guidance you receive. So we're going to go through all of it, all using your Akashic record energy. And so enrollment is like $111 for all 4 weeks. And then the link to enroll is posted in the Esoterics community in the Akashic Studio page on Facebook, or you can DM the Esoterics podcast or Joe Figueres Akashic Reader on Instagram, and then I'll send you the link.
Perfect.
What about you? Do you have anything to announce?
Oh, yes, I do. I have just to mention our retreat that is coming up. Our re-
Mm-hmm.
our retreat is taking place May 27th through May 29th, and this is in West Olive, Michigan. This is just a few minutes from the Lake Michigan shore. As of now, our price is 888, and this includes obviously the retreat and the overnight stay. We do have payment plans available if you need them. There are also, though, I'm going to want to make a big point of this, is that we have commuter spots available for anyone who's a Michigan local. So these are available for 555. So for anyone who would like to commute instead of staying overnight, those are spots available for you as well. Also, we also have add-ons. This is up to 6 people we have available for Monday, and this is private integration time with myself and Joe. And like I said, this is all on Monday. So, if any more details on that, you can just visit esotericspodcast.com.
Yay, that's so good. The commuter space is cool because everything is included, every single thing except for a place to stay or
Yeah.
a place to sleep,
Yeah.
which, if a bunch of people get together and, decide to book an Airbnb, I mean, you get enough people and those things are very inexpensive. So
Sure. Yeah.
it'd be a fun girls trip weekend,
Yeah.
So.
Perfect. All right.
Right.
What are we talking
Yes.
about today?
Today's topic is imposter syndrome. A lot of people have been struggling with it. And then, of course, January didn't help things. But now that we're in the flow of February, it's a good time to really use that energy to dig a little bit deeper.
Mhm.
What about you? Have you ever struggled with imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome is, I feel like it's like a newer term.
Mm. Mm-hmm,
But yes, definitely. I know, especially with like career changes, or I remember just when I first got into like actually having like my first design job. I
Yeah.
remember feeling like, oh my God, like I don't know what I'm doing. Like, what if I screw up someone's kitchen, or like what if I mess this up? Like, what if they find out that I don't know what I'm doing?
Right. What if I'm going to
Yeah.
be exposed as a fraud?
Yeah. So yeah, no, definitely. And then, as time went along and I gained more experience and everything just kind of flowed a lot. And then I realized like every time I would sit down with someone and I had to explain things to them, it's like, oh, I know this. Like, what am I
Right.
worried about? But yes, definitely. I think we all do.
We all do, and it's such a hard thing. And you mentioned about it being a relatively new term, and I think what's happened is that this term, like the term self care, it's been expanded upon, and it's a woo woo buzzword.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because the term actually it was a phrase coined by two female researchers in 1978.
Oh.
Pauline Rose Clance and Suzanne Imes. I did not know that, and I was like, "Hey, that's cool." Like
Been
this,
around
it
for
was
a while.
and it was a phrase that was coined. um, but Pauline and Suzanne described this as like a fear of others believing you to be much more talented or skilled than you actually are,
Mm.
and will therefore eventually be exposed, like I said earlier, as a fraud. So
Mm-hmm.
people just feel that they aren't as competent or intelligent as others think they are.
Mm-hmm.
And soon enough, people are going to discover that truth. So, that's the crux of this version of imposter syndrome. At the end, we're going to talk about a different perspective of imposter syndrome.
Okay.
So really just what I have to say about that is that, look, we all feel that way sometimes, despite our achievements. We all lose self-control every now and then we get frustrated and we feel, we fail to sort of meet these crazy self-imposed standards of achievement, right? That's perfectionism, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But here's a way to look at it, is that men have a tendency to attribute their success to like a quality that is inherent within them.
Uh-huh.
They own it, and women are more likely to credit their success to maybe an external energy like luck. They got help, they were given a gift, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And struggle to recognize their own inherent ability, and instead attribute it to something external or some temporary force. So that's why I think it's such an important topic, because it's more about women learning to say, wait a minute, like you said, I've got this, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
here because. So I just wanted to talk more about the empowering aspect of stepping out of or being in imposter syndrome, in a moment or an emotion where you can say, hold on, hold the freaking phone.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's bullshit. It's bullshit that it's not us. That we have to feel like, oh, I'm going to get found out.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, when do we feel it the most? A lot of people typically feel it when, like, it rears its ugly head when we take on, like, new roles, new responsibilities that challenge our knowledge and our abilities. Really,
Mm-hmm.
right? We up
Sure.
level. It could be a career change or a shift, a new job,
Mm-hmm.
achieving, a long sought after goal. Or like just a new challenge that you just don't have a lot of experience with. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think, I don't know. I mean, I guess the biggest fear of that, well, the biggest fear, but one of the fears I would have is like trial and error. You know what I mean? Like, is
Yeah.
this going to work? Isn't it going to work?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what brings on these feelings of anxiety. And, it's self defeating. And, I think especially if you don't have access to a mentor.
Yes. Definitely.
Well, you're going to constantly question yourself, am I doing this right? And then comparing yourself to everyone else who seems to know what they're doing, that sort of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
there's so many icks about that. You know what I mean? Like, I hate it when I feel like that, when I feel like I'm not fully standing in my own power. So
Yeah. It's hard.
it is hard. I think I really felt that way when I first started doing readings, and then again when I started silversmithing.
Uh-huh.
So readings, of course, people were readers. You read for people, and you're always, I think the thing is not wanting to say something, because you don't want the person, you don't want to be wrong.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is,
Definitely.
um, and then again with silversmithing, the industry is just filled with, people that have done it for like 20, 30, 40 years. Can we talk about the seedy underbelly of silversmithing for a minute, though?
Yeah. What is it?
Okay. So there are two types of people. There are silversmiths, or
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, there are jewelers,
Uh-huh. Yes.
and there are metalsmiths.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Jewelers create beautiful gold, pronged diamond, ruby. I mean, those
Yes.
things, the
Mm-hmm.
crown jewels, the things that you can get at Jared and Kay, and,
Yes.
all that shit,
The real
right?
fancy stuff. Uh-huh.
The super fancy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That is a jeweler, and they are the most elitist. they're just they're just
Mm.
they're a lot of old white people, and they just always want to tell you what you're doing wrong. They're just jerks.
They sound like kitchen designers.
They so there's the same issue with kitchen designers.
They're the same shit. Yeah. And most of them have these, like, especially the longer they've been doing it, the bigger, more inflated egos they have, and they do no wrong, and their way is the best way and the only way. And if
Oh
you
my
do it different,
god.
you're doing it wrong. Yeah. And there's so much judgment, and just like you can't, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my god, how do we go from being these excited, impassioned rookies to big old assholes? I just don't, please let me never be that way. There was a lady in one of my groups on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
She a silversmith or a metalsmith, and she taught a class, and she said, this class doesn't take any experience, and I show them what to do, and
Mm-hmm.
blah 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 blah. Like, basically, she's like, I stand over them and tell them step by step.
Mm-hmm.
So the customer was like, sent her an email and said, I had so much fun in that class. Can you send me a materials list, because I'd like to make some rings at home, for my girls.
Uh-huh.
And she's like, has anybody heard of this? I'm not comfortable doing this. And everybody was like, dude, what's the fucking problem? You're a teacher. If you give somebody a class, it's not outside of the realm of,
Mm.
a student is going to ask for a material list.
Uh-huh.
So luckily everybody was like, what is the deal?
Yeah.
And I just said, I said, if my teacher were like you, I never would have gotten into metalsmithing. And I didn't say it like in a mean way, but it's
Yeah.
Facebook, and sometimes things need to be said tersely.
Mhm. Mhm.
But just shit like that, like they're just the old jewelers, they're just such buttholes.
Yeah.
So
It's
anyway,
I think it's anytime someone's been in their craft too long and they've lost sight of being a student. I really think that's what it comes down to, because I think if you
yeah.
get into that mentality of like, I'm always a student and I'm always learning, even when I'm teaching others, I'm still learning, and I have the opportunity to learn even from my own students. If you keep that open-mindedness about yourself, I
Mhm.
think that that would prevent that from happening. But when you don't, when you flip that switch and you're like, oh no, like my method is the only method, and fuck all else, that's when you're there.
That's when you hit the trouble. That's
Yeah.
when things start getting.
Hmm.
All right. Well, thank you for allowing me that tangent, because I needed to get that off my chest. Clearly. All right. So basically, what we need to watch for are self defeating behaviors, like dwelling on the things that didn't work out, any unhappy customers. It's hard when you have an unhappy customer,
Oh God.
and yes, because they're so mean and they make you question, like, what am I even doing? Why am I doing this?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just meanies.
Yep.
Basically what it is, it comes down to, I think that it's all the things that aren't happening that you think should be happening in your life, in your career, in your relationship, or whatever. And those are the thoughts that start to wear away at your confidence. You start
Mm.
to question your choices and begin to feel like, what am I even doing? Which does tie into that conversation we had about discomfort. You're not out of alignment just because you feel that discomfort.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's an up level. And for many, that's what January was. It was a huge up level. It just felt like a corkscrew going up your butt.
Mm-hmm.
Up level. Yeah. Just was
I
not
mean,
comfortable.
not that I know what that feels, but one could imagine.
I'm just good at really imagining. I can sure imagine putting an actual corkscrew up your butt. Ow, that would hurt. Mm. I think we have this Sunday night giggles a little bit.
Maybe.
Okay. All right. So, what? Let's talk about some different types of imposter syndrome.
Okay.
Maybe you experience them and you're like, I didn't even know this was imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
All right. So the first one is perfectionism, right? And perfectionism and imposter syndrome, they can go hand in hand, because
Mm-hmm.
perfectionists set these excessively high goals for themselves. And when they fail to reach it, then of course, anytime we fail to reach a goal, we start to experience self doubt, worry. Um, you know, Also, what do you think? I think perfectionists tend to be control freaks, not necessarily in a bad way, but many people who are control freaks will fully admit, "Oh yeah, I'm a control."
Yes, I think part of it has to do with, I think it can be twofold. I think it can be that they're a control freak, and I think it can also be like an inability to ask for help.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, you're right, and there is another category, extreme independence, that we'll talk about.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes. So yeah, it's true though. If you're like, well, it's that whole perfectionism, and then the extreme independence is feeling like if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. You can't ask somebody
Yep.
for help. You
Yep.
can't ask somebody to join you.
Yes.
Maybe you've been accused of being a micromanager. It's like that country song, "You might be a perfectionist."
I
um,
am not. I am not anyone's micromanager, and I hate being micromanaged. Hate it.
same,
Yeah.
same. I'm the opposite of a micromanager. I'm like, wait, what do you mean didn't happen because I wasn't paying attention?
Yeah. It's like, what do you mean I had to be there for you to get it done?
Right,
What?
exactly.
Just do it.
Um, okay, so now you don't like being a micromanager. Do you have a difficulty delegating when
My problem is I'm not good at asking for help.
okay,
So
all
it's
right.
not that it's not micromanaging. So I can't even get to the step of like handing off the task, because I'm just like, no, I'll just do it. Like, I'll just do it because and I've had this conversation with my friend Joseph before where it's like, because I know he gets like this too, where it's feels like it's gonna take so much more time to explain everything that's going on in your head to the other
Mhm.
person, that it's like, you know what, instead of me explaining it, let me just do it.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's a
Yes.
trap because that's
Mhm.
not true. It just means that you might have to explain it once, but that means that then the next time when this thing comes up, now you don't have to explain it because now it's like, oh, hey, remember the thing we did last time? We got to do that again.
Yeah, and as a leader too, I appreciate leaders who take the time because then they're not sending the message that, I don't trust you,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like you can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, also I'm that type of person, show me once. I might have a
Yes.
couple questions, but I pick it up very quickly because I think that I'm that type of person who learns from mistakes. I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
experience some bullshit twice. So I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to learn my damn lesson the first time.
Yep.
Um, so also perfectionism it sort of shows up when people miss an insanely high mark, right? You accuse
Yeah.
yourself of not being cut out for the job, or obsess about it for days, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so again, you set these insanely high, goals, and when you fail to meet them, then it's like we internalize that.
Mm-hmm.
And then also believing that our work must be 100% perfect 100% of the time. I get that with jewelry a lot, and it is what it is, right? So,
Yeah.
it's handmade jewelry and it's just not going to be perfect every time.
Yes.
Okay. So perfectionism is one. The other one is the workaholic. Those who sort of believe that they're phonies among the real deal, and so they really have to push themselves and work a lot harder and measure up. And
Mm.
honestly, that's just a cover for insecurities. But it's not anything that you should be ashamed of, or shit. We all struggle with imperfectionism and then insecurities and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I think that's just like the need or the feeling of having to prove yourself. So it's like it's I'm never done. I'm never done. I'm always busy and but at what expense, right? Because
Mhm,
if you're a workaholic, that means that
mhm,
you're not prioritizing
mm-mm,
yourself. You're putting your
mm-mm,
work ahead of everything else.
yeah, staying at the office later than everybody else, and abandoning their hobbies, their family, their passions,
Mhm.
all that stuff. That's just not fun. Listen, I have never been accused of being a workaholic, and I do not give a fuck. I mean, I like to do what I like to do. In the corporate world, my when I would get like a job review, it would
Mhm.
like, Joe is wonderful at the things that she loves to do, but tends to ignore the things she doesn't want to do. And it's totally true. I owned it. I was like, I do that. I totally do. I totally don't deserve a raise on that one. But we're talking about shit like filing. Yeah, so nobody's gonna disagree with me.
I don't even remember my reviews, thank God.
I know, right? Right? Reviews are dumb.
Who are you to judge me?
I knew that was coming.
What
Don't.
is what is this, grade school? What is this, a report card? Just pay me and leave me alone. Am I getting a
Who
raise
the
or not?
who the hell do you think you are? Your
Take
boss? Oh,
whatever.
F you. Oh my gosh, that's so bad. I really want to say that, but hopefully I'll never have another douchebag boss again. All my bosses will always be lovely and fun and easy and
Yes.
fun.
Yep.
All right. So the next category is the expert. These individuals believe it's negative to take like a long time to actually master something. So they basically judge themselves on getting things right on the first try.
Mm.
So when they can't do something quickly or fluently or whatever, they fall into imposter syndrome. Um, this is also interesting. These people tend to not, they dislike the idea of having a mentor because they're like, nope, I can handle it on my own.
Um.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
No,
So,
open yourself up.
mhm,
You can learn something from everyone. Everyone knows something you don't know. I one of the my biggest lessons that I learned from design school, especially when I was taking a codes and regulations class.
Yeah.
So there are crazy amount of codes when it comes to construction, right? And the first thing that our teacher said was, it is not about memorizing codes. It's never going to be about memorizing codes. Just all design in general, and this I think is applicable to life in general. I tell this to my kids all the time. It is not about memorizing everything. It is about knowing where you can get the information,
Yeah. Excellent.
whether it's a book or a person, So yeah, open yourself up to knowing at least where to find the answer, not necessarily having to always have the answer.
Yeah. A lot of experts too will avoid taking on challenges because it's too uncomfortable to try something that they're not great at.
Mm,
Or they're constantly seeking out trainings or certifications because they think they need to improve their skills in
mhm.
order to succeed. So it feels like they'll never know enough, and that one just seems like a really exhausting
That is
manifestation of imposter
exhausting.
syndrome, doesn't
That
it?
is
I
really
I,
exhausting.
I vote no. No,
Yeah. I'm
that's not
fine knowing a little bit about a lot of things. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
right. I mean, and then you have this vast knowledge, and people are just blown away that you know this little thing or this one thing, and then they don't care that you don't know the rest of it.
Yeah, and then you get to be good
Mhm.
at trivia sometimes.
Right.
It's fine.
Right. I'm describing you, by the way. Yeah, did we tell everybody that we played trivia
I don't
together?
I don't know if we did. I know we did because we had to talk about the asshole trivia
Oh, the guy.
person. Yeah, the guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know that he was I didn't get to play again because he was there. And then of course when my class started, my metalsmithing class started, that was the first week that he was gone. And I was like, drat.
Oh,
Yeah, that was a bummer. But that night was super fun.
that was way fun.
All right, so then the last topic of the type of imposter syndrome, that you might be experiencing it when it rears its ugly head, is what Fioraliz mentioned earlier: extreme independence. When you're unable to ask for help, people believe that if they ask for help, that it reveals them as a phony, right?
Mhm.
So they have to refuse assistance. They need to accomplish everything on their own. They don't need anybody's help, and then they frame requests. That I thought this one was interesting. Framing requests in terms of what the project needs or the situation needs versus what you need as a
Uh
person. Yeah.
oh, like one of those like the needs of the company need you to stay overtime
Right.
tonight. Like
Which the needs of the company can suck it, right? You're not going to get any shit out of me that way. I more relate to, I need your help. And I'd be like, oh, how can I help you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, connect on a human level, not on a corporate level.
Mm-mm,
That's not going to work. Not for us fives. Sorry.
mm-mm. This is the last thing that's going to work on me. Oh, that cracks me up. Well, okay, but one thing I want to mention about extreme independence is that there is zero shame in asking for help when you need it, and I really want everybody to understand something at the deepest level. Extreme independence it's a trust issue overall,
Mm,
and over the years, it's not your fault because over the years we've learned that if we don't put ourselves in a situation where we rely on somebody else, then we won't be disappointed. If we don't put our trust in others, it won't hurt as much when they fail to show up for us or disappoint us in some way. So, these are things that we've learned, or stories that we've told ourselves, or
mhm,
that we've heard or and seen them played out in our friends and family. And so, but in order to stop doing something or stop allowing something to control you, you first have to become aware of it. And if you're not aware of it, then
yes.
how the hell do you know that you're doing it?
Mhm.
So you know but I know that extreme independence, whenever I exhibit it, it's a preemptive strike against disappointment and heartbreak. I think my biggest
Yeah.
thing that I struggle with is disappointment in others.
Yeah.
That's just because I received that you know from early childhood caregivers.
Mhm.
So yeah. Well, and then it also speaks to the fact that sometimes you just don't trust yourself to pick the right people. So, we can keep peeling this onion. It just goes down, but self-sabotage is all about, not feeling good enough, um, you know, um, or not trusting and all that good stuff. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Not trusting and others, not trusting in yourself.
yep,
Yeah.
yep, absolutely. Um, so, I mean, there's just a couple things that I want to point out is that, just sort of when you feel that energy in your life showing up on your job or your passions or whatever, is
Hmm.
to really show up for yourself, like mindfully show up for yourself, and remember that imposter syndrome is just a feeling, and our
Yeah.
feelings, they're not facts, right?
Yep.
Energy, and it changes in the moment.
Yep.
And also talk about your feelings with someone you trust. I have people that I trust in my life that I can say, hey, I need to talk about this,
Yes.
and that makes things so much better and
Yes.
easier.
It's so important. That is so important. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's critical. It is. Yeah, we'll sit here going back and forth. That's so important. That's so important. I'll say, oh my god, it's totally important.
Yeah, it just, you can never discount. We're here having a human experience, so you don't ever discount human connection and
Hmm.
how helpful it can be. And even if that person doesn't necessarily have to offer you advice, it's just knowing that someone is there and willing to hold space for you is enough. And if you're the person on the other side, that I would say the same thing to you. Like, it's not always about what you're not going to necessarily fix the problem. It's just about lending an ear and just being there for them. And sometimes it's all that we need.
Sometimes that's it, right? You just
Hmm.
want somebody to hold space for you. You just want somebody to say, you know, that I can say, I want to complain about this thing that it might be irrational, but do you have the emotional capacity for me to be
Hmm.
irrational for just a minute? So,
Hmm.
I just find that anytime I have the ability to vent or, speak my truth, I just feel so much better after. And of course, we want to make sure that, we have the emotional capacity for it. Our partner, the person on the other end, has the
Yeah.
emotional capacity for it. We're not emotionally dumping on them and being like, "See ya,"
Yeah.
but that's what people are for.
Yeah.
They're there for each other. So
Yeah. Um, yeah, definitely if you feel like you're gonna dump something heavy on someone,
yeah.
I think that's great advice and a good idea to ask, "Hey, I've got something. Do you have some time to, like, maybe let me share this with you? It's kind of heavy." You can say no,
Mhm.
or we can do this some other time. And if you're that person and you know that you're not in a good space to
Mhm.
listen, or just to hold that space for that person, be like, you know what, I love you, but it's been a really, whatever, it's not right now. You don't actually have to give an explanation. You could just say not right
Mm-mm.
now. That's
No.
okay.
Yep.
um and that's it, because again, it's boundaries. And don't internalize somebody else. They're not rejecting
Mm-mm.
you. They're just
Mm-mm.
protecting themselves for that moment. And we all got to do it.
It's we do. We do. It's a hard trick to learn. A trick. It's not even a trick. It's a hard thing to learn not to internalize somebody else's rejection.
Hmm.
Of, and it doesn't matter what it is. It was, I don't know, it was a couple months ago. I reached out to a reader and I asked her, I'm like, I would love to get a reading from you. Do you trade?
Hmm.
And she's lovely, and she just is like, you know what? No, it's my policy not to trade. And I was a little bit initially. I was like, rejected, but then I was like, well, it's not about me. She doesn't trade with anybody. If she
Yeah,
does,
she
I
doesn't
wouldn't
deserve it.
know. And also, she's got very specific reasons. I know that some practitioners have specific reasons that they don't trade. I
Hmm.
love a good trade, but I only trade if I really want it, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so, uh, okay. The other thing about showing up for yourself is, don't be humble. about your achievements. Like, they are not the result of luck or happy accidents. Your skills and knowledge are what made things happen. You are the badass that did that. So celebrate your wins and acknowledge that you have accomplished something really freaking cool.
Yeah.
Just mindfully take a minute and just allow yourself to feel good about yourself and where you are and what you've accomplished and who you are and all of those amazing things, right? Just recognizing our accomplishments can help us stand taller and stronger in our personal power. And I mean, over the years, I'm just such an advocate for people standing in their power. Um, and I just think it's one of the coolest things, especially during a reading when I get somebody and they get so inspired and they're like, okay, I'm gonna do
Yeah.
this thing.
Yeah.
It's just this amazing thing that I think all readers, when we make a difference in somebody's lives, it's inspiring.
Yeah. Definitely. Absolutely.
So recognize your own accomplishments. Um, okay. Do you have anything you want to say about any of that?
Yeah. The other thing I guess I would add to that is don't compare yourself.
No.
I've been huge on just sharing this with people over the last 2 years is don't compare yourself because we're all so different from each other. Also along with that, um, the fallacy of self-made.
Yeah.
That's not a thing. Like nobody in this world is self-made. There's not a single person who's self-made. Everyone, like you think of like quote unquote self-made millionaires or self-made billionaires or whatever. Fucking
Mhm.
Bezos didn't get to where he is
Mm-mm.
by himself.
Mm-mm.
No, it's on the backs of other people, of people he's employed, of his wife who worked
Mhm.
so that he could start his business in general, like all this stuff. Nobody is self-made, absolutely not. Like everyone, whether it's people that helped you or failures that taught you, everything, there have been other relationships, and there have been people, there have been connections, there have been all of these things have gotten that person where they're at today.
Yeah.
So the idea of self-made is bullshit.
What comes to mind is, I won't name any names, but there's that, young author, young, cute Texas Instagram author who, says, I did all this. This is my work. I did all this. Well, it's very helpful that you have a husband who had a corporate job with Disney,
Right.
which,
Yeah, no, that's not a thing. Yeah, that's not,
that's
it's
no,
just not a
you
thing.
might have done the thing yourself by writing the book yourself, but you got help. So, and it's not to
Everyone
slam
had
anybody that
help.
gets right.
Yeah.
It's not to slam anybody that gets help. It's just
Yeah, no,
acknowledge.
absolutely not. That just actually goes back to the extreme independence thing. Like
Yep.
there is no need for you to be extremely independent because everyone's had help. Everyone's had help. So it's okay for you to ask for help. It's for you to have help, to get help, to do what you need to do, to build the relationships and to get to where you need to go. Just don't take advantage of people. That's it.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's something that I want to do to close this whole conversation out. I want everybody to visualize the hangman card, right? Dude's hanging upside down. There's like a rope around his ankle. This
Mhm.
card speaks to perspective and seeing things from a different perspective. Situations, whatever. Looking at them a little bit differently. So, with that said, imposter syndrome in its current form, it does a really fucking terrible job of acknowledging or crediting that it exists, or its very existence to like societal or racial or cultural challenges, right? It exists because of those challenges.
Yeah.
Um, Not to mention, systemic, classism, racism, xenophobia, misogyny, any of those other biases. So that's a really important and interesting perspective that I wanted to look at this from, because so many articles out there tell us to be more positive and only embrace the love and light, and this is just spiritual bullshit that
Yeah.
bypasses
It's very
this
true.
necessary conversation that
Yeah.
needs to be had. And this necessary conversation starts a little bit like this: as long as there is a group, class, or category of humans that hold themselves above another, imposter syndrome will always exist in some iteration, especially for women.
Mm.
That, just have the freaking conversation, because in a more global conversation, the answer to overcoming imposter syndrome isn't individual at all.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to have that conversation, that as long as there's bias out there, there's going to be imposter syndrome.
Yep.
It'll be eliminated when we live in a world where individuality is celebrated, or diversity is celebrated, regardless of your race, your sexual orientation, your ethnicity, and your gender identity. So I just had to throw a little bit of wokeness down, because I know that it's a term a lot of people like to poke a little bit of fun at.
Yeah.
Being woke, and that's what that means, right? Like, I want to meet somebody, or I want the world. I'm an idealist. I'm a humanitarian, right? I'm the nurturer and all that shit. All that shit.
All is it.
So, but my biggest humanitarian dream would get to know someone, and the first thing that we notice is what a really cool fucking soul they are.
Yeah.
Like that, end of story, right? Wow, that's a down ass soul. And you guys, like, our guides and our higher self, I mean, they want us to know things sort of surrounding that energy, right? They want us to know that how freaking perfect we are, just as we are. Imposter syndrome in relation to comparing ourselves with one another is something that we create as a result of our own suffering. Okay, now, yes, that's a Buddhist sort of ideology about suffering, right? But basically, in every moment, we have the ability for a brand new start. In every breath, in every minute, we're choosing and breathing and seeing and hearing, the things that we believe to be true about ourselves or about the world. So it's just basically, Spirit's like, well, the real truth, though, is that you're just all these beautiful souls having a very specific experience, in a one-of-a-kind, unique body. So, as soon as we start living in a world, and we start having conversations, and we start interacting with people, and all of these things that where we can be confident enough in ourselves to celebrate our own individual unique magic, then we can show others how amazing it is to do that too. So that was just a different perspective that I want to cover.
Because, I like that.
Thank you
very much. All right.
You have anything for the closing vibe?
I do. So we're gonna start doing some card pulls for our closing vibes.
Yay! This is exciting.
So I shuffled this deck. This is the Soul's Journey Lesson Cards deck. And I shuffled it, and I pulled this card, and then I was like, I don't know. And then I put it back, shuffled it again, and then it came out again, and I was like, okay.
You can't, right? Spirit's like,
okay.
Spirit is like, don't tell me what to do.
Because I was like, I don't get it. But now that we talked about everything we talked about, okay, the card is Envy.
Oh, okay.
And it says, I am the same as everybody, but with different challenges. And the explanation is, you must learn to accept that the obstacles in your life have been chosen by you. To be jealous of the soul path of another is to doubt your inability to judge what is best for you. It is human nature to covet the perceived luxuries of someone on a different journey, but to try to emulate him or her is not being true to your own guidance. You have chosen this life and these circumstances for a reason. So by disregarding that and following in the footsteps of another, you're only setting yourself up for confusion and disappointment. And you never truly know what's going on in another person's life and what personal challenges that they may face. So to be envious is a fool's game. Be authentic to your inner voice, because only you know what is in your best interests. And if you don't follow your own path, you will have to reincarnate in an attempt to learn your original lessons again.
Okay, you cannot make this stuff up. I mean, is there a more perfect card for the topic of imposter syndrome? And Spirit was like, Fioraliz, I picked that card for a reason.
This is it. I'm like, okay.
Your guide was like, bitch, quit fucking with the deck.
This is it. Yeah.
Oh my God, that was hilarious. That was an amazing pull, because, it completely speaks to the entire topic, is that we are these individual beautiful souls, and comparing ourselves or being envious of others is really just a fool's mission or
Fool's
whatever
game.
it's
Fool's
called. So
game. Yep.
a fool's game. A fool's game.
Yes. Okay, and I have one last one, and this one is perfect to wrap it up because I saved this one for last because I felt like this one does make sense to have it because it's all good when we talk about these things and we point these stuff out like this, these are the symptoms and these are the things, and we talk about perspective and helping you see it from a different light, and then obviously this other card, this card is from the Work Your Light Oracle deck.
Is that Rebecca?
Yeah, Rebecca Campbell.
Rebecca Campbell, yeah.
Yes. And so the card, and this one is Inner Temple. It is devotion. Tune in to the portal of your heart. So this one, it's pretty long, but this is just, again, it's pretty much the same message of like, you're here to grow as a soul. Earth is one big playground for the soul to learn. But it's saying you're being called to be a devoted student and to tune into your heart, to incorporate true devotion into your life. So this could mean that you could be called to develop a regular meditation or journaling or a chanting practice, or just to show up to your soul with some kind of rhythm, whatever, some kind of practice. So to develop a practice where you'll fill up your well and spend time with your soul. So whatever that is for you, but doing more of that and doing that in some kind of rhythm. So that's essentially the point of this card, is that to commit yourself to a daily devotional practice.
I love that. That is lovely, complimentary, lovingly complimentary. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and it says, if you are questioning your career or your life path, your guides want you to turn your focus toward devotion and this prayer. Please use me in a way that delights my mind, body, and soul. May my life be one big moving prayer.
You guys, seriously, that is a wonderful version of the prayer that I always say, which is, okay, Spirit, if they send me in a direction that I am not expecting to go in, or I say, okay, show me how you want to work through me then, because I don't know. And they do every single time. And that's really what's happening. Your higher self is working through you. Your higher self says, I want to go to Earth because I want to learn this.
Yes.
And so I'm going to pick a body and put part of me in it, and I'm going to experience it. And, I'm going to be able to wade through 3D bullshit. And then we send that information back to our higher selves, and that's how it all works. So.
And here we are.
And here we are.
All right. Oh, awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for all of that today, Joe.
You are very welcome. It was fun a fun topic to explore.
Yep.
So. Okay. You want to do the first paragraph of the outro?
Sure. So you can find us on all the socials under Esoterics Podcast, and be sure to join our Facebook community, the Esoterics Community, to hear firsthand about our services, events, and courses, as well as get intuitive development tips, card pulls, free meditations, and a whole lot more.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please share with a friend. It really does mean a lot to us, and it's so fun to get tagged.
Yes.
And it's as easy as sharing a screenshot on your Insta stories and just tagging us. We love to get tagged.
Yep.
Thank you for sharing space with us today. Before I tell you to stay mystical, magical, I do want to mention that earlier I was listening to a YouTube video from it's called Astrology with Heather, and she talks about the energy that we're in now in February, and it was a really good listen. So I will include the link in the show notes, but check it out because it was a really good listen.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Astrology with Heather. So now I can say stay mystical, magical, and ready to do it again next week. Yay. See you guys later.
Thank you.
Bye.